Okay, welcome to this. It says here, effective classroom management, a primary school journey to see the pupil. I think that's a little bit misleading. This is really about how it impacts on everything that we do as a school. So what we'll do is we'll look at the journey that we've been on over time. And then you kind of have got some of the handouts that you may have already flicked through. Some of them look quite daunting, but actually some of the things that we're in the process of developing with Scomis as well. And we'll talk a little bit about that flexibility. So I'm Adrian Scarrett. I'm the head teacher from St Mary's Primary School in Bideford in North Devon. This is Michael Hurd, education business partner. I met Michael 4 years ago. He actually came to look round my school with a view to his child attending. And he reminds me quite often that I actually said to him on that day, "You're not a normal parent," because the kind of questions he was asking were not the ones that you normally get when you show prospective parents around. As a result of that, his daughter did start attending my school, and as a result of that and some of the work we've been doing and knowing that his insights into systems within schools, I actually managed to get him onto our school's governing body as well. So
I actually think it was a reward at that point.
Yeah, well, that's what he says in front of me. So my school is two form entry primary school in North Devon, so we're situated in Bideford. We're actually in Torridge District Council, so we are an area of identified deprivation. So subsequently, or as a result of that, we've accessed some of that Strategic School Improvement Fund training through teaching schools. We have a very wide demographic. We're based in the town of Bideford itself, and that's where we draw most of our children from, the town area. We're a voluntary controlled church school, so we are maintained, and we're also part of the Atlantic Coast Cooperative Trust. So we've got 9 primary schools, of which we're the largest at 419. The smallest is a part of a federation, Buckland, Brewer and Parkham, where they've got 35 children. So we do quite a lot of work around school improvement together and giving opportunities to children right across most of what used to be our old learning community. So in 2016, it seems strange to think back, but registers were done on paper. That information was then filed in the office, and then on a Friday the school business manager would collect them all in and put them all onto SIMS. So our SIMS, our attendance data was running a week behind our live data. SIMS itself was only really viewed by office-based staff. In fact, although I could log into SIMS, if I needed anything, I would go straight to the business manager, email her and say, "Can you just send me this attendance data? Can you send me this across?" Staff would sit with her to input statutory data and things like that, because it was a little bit of a scary thing that nobody really needed to bother with in their everyday teaching and all of the things that went along with that. We used School Pupil Tracker for a while. We had our own system, and then we moved to School Pupil Tracker, and we were with them for 4 years. And when levels were removed, we felt that we needed to do something a bit different. There were certain things we found with Pupil Tracker that were causing us issues. Certain inflexibility with being able to do exactly what we wanted, particularly when we moved away from levels, was one of those things. And so we were starting to look outside of what that could offer, and then realised that SIMS had the assessment package which we were already buying into, and obviously the £1,600 plus that we were spending each year on that was a good saving and something that we felt that we could invest better in making a product that we really felt would work for us. So we then wanted to join up everything else. So over time, and this has been a sort of step-by-step process, We used to buy into a school money system, so our parents could, so we could contact parents and they could also make payments. We've now pulled that in, so that's all in Sims as well. So I've just received an email just before we started this from the school. Actually, I had two, one about head lice, one about a trip that's going on tomorrow, and that's all just come straight through Sims, and it targets out to the parents who are already on your system. So there's no, and it cuts down on that GDPR. I'll probably mention that a couple of times, but I don't know how scary you found that, but GDPR I've found has been a little bit of one of those things that some schools are trying to ignore a little bit. Nobody can ignore it completely, so it actually pulls that in quite nicely. So that streamlining of systems so that we've got one system, generally one system that runs most of the things that teachers and support staff are needing to deal with. So whenever you change a system, we had School Pupil Tracker for a while and everyone was getting into using that, and then we changed to this system. You've got to get the staff on board. So we felt that in making that change, the first thing we would need to do is train them in the things that were quick gains, the things that they could see quite easily that were saving them time or were more effective for them. So one of the first things we swapped over was to get their registers done on Sims. We didn't want to pay out much more money, so classes already had a PC, desktop PC in the classroom, and classes had a tablet. And what we've done is put so that the teachers could take the registers using either of those things. So the desktop, the teacher app on the desktop's really easy. You just open it up. It has photographs of all your children with their names. You just take the register and you tap their photographs. So you don't even need to put your what I found these days, don't even need to put your glasses on to take the register anymore. You can just go through, tap, 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 and similarly now for the school meals, which we've just, since half term, started doing the school meals on the same system. So that works, that's worked really effectively. The great thing with that is, as soon as you've done that on the desktop or on the tablet, as soon as that tablet's connected to the system, which if you're in school it is, that uploads to Sims and you've got live attendance data at your fingertips. So if you're off-site, then you can do the register in the same way. As soon as on the tablet, as soon as you come back into school, that uploads. But in the meantime, you've got a register with you. What we also do now is use the registers as our fire list, the iPad, sorry, as our fire register. So when teachers are walking around the school, going down to the hall for PE, off-site, they take their iPad, their tablet with them, and then if there is an emergency, they've got their register at their fingertips. That also saves, this is a minimal cost saving, but that also saves us having to print out every day, and also our dinner register. So we had roast day yesterday, 200 children for option 1, plus we have another 3 options, plus we do 3 packed lunch options for universal infant free school meals. So we can now check that by standing with an iPad and just making sure that children are taking the right options and nobody's left without or having to scrabble around trying to find something. That's another benefit that we're just starting to use. So if we talk about the attendance, I think I've covered this a little bit already. So Michael came in and did some initial training with staff at a staff meeting so that they could understand the system. They started using it virtually the following day. So what we've found now is that we're able to very quickly identify children who are have lower levels of attendance, rather than me having to go to the business manager and say, can you run a report and find out which children we've got, how many children we've got, under 95%. I can do that now. In fact, last week, in your pack, at the back of your pack is a report that's not actually live yet. I went to a governors meeting last week and just spent some time crunching some data, and the governors really liked what I'd done because we've got a number of children who are persistent absentees. So I did all of that, took it to the governors, and Michael said, I think we can get that to work through Sims. So what Gary Henderson's been working on for us this week is that, which just gives a breakdown of those children, because I know that we've got some small groups, small pockets of children that are dragging the whole school attendance down. So I know that we've got it's still at the moment. We can still just do we just do a search through, so it doesn't throw up an alert. But actually, I mean, we're quite a big school, but we know the children really well, and because the teachers are now able to access this, if they get as a teacher, you get a hunch that your children. And interestingly, one of our Year 4 teachers was very much. Felt that her attendance was impacting negatively on the progress the children were making. When you look at it, her attendance of her whole class is actually it's up there. It's the Dunlins class is up at 95+%. So actually, it's not the attendance that's causing a problem. However, there are lots of children who come in late. So they're missing that settling first part of the morning and some really important phonics work that they're doing, or spelling work. So that was happening on a regular basis. What we've been able to do as senior leadership and through the other staff is then start to target families that we know that we've kind of picked the ones that we've already built relationships with, and start to work with them on how we can assist them, or the fact that we've noticed that they're regularly late, and that's starting to show improvements. So it's one of those things that you could do anyway, but actually the system threw up. What we didn't want to do was change all of our systems in order to fit Sims. We wanted to be able to make Sims work for what we were doing. So then we move on to the assessment package itself. So as I said, we were using School Pupil Tracker. We wanted to use the programs of study in Sims and be able to get teachers to assess over the terms or through their teaching blocks. And those teaching blocks are really important. We've just moved more heavily towards a topic base. So we're very, very focused on lots of objectives across an English teaching block of 3 weeks. At the end of that, it makes sense for teachers to make assessments, and that saves them time. In fact, I had a conversation with a teacher last week where I'd said at the end of a block he hadn't been double checking, so he's done all his marking, not double checked to see where the children are against the objectives. So later in the term he's going to have to go back to that and do all of that again. It didn't make any sense to me. He kind of it's about that long-term gain. I think he felt I didn't quite have the time to get that done, so that was the bit I shelved. Actually, that was the really important bit that would have benefited him when he comes to the end of term to make a judgment, or the end of the year, because we only make report judgments on foundation subjects to parents at the end of a year, so it will save him a lot of time. So he just goes into the system and tags where he thinks they are. So we run a system where we're looking at children emerging against their objectives, developing, then secure, and we also use a greater depth. So what we're looking at doing is checking the children's progress against those objectives. If you've got children working out of year group, then you can tag them against the year group objectives that they're working at as well. So there's that little bit of flexibility there. So with regard to this, we initially started doing this with our Year 6 last academic year because we wanted to trial it. Didn't give the teachers more work to do, but it did mean that if it didn't work, or if we felt it needed tweaking, we didn't have historic data coming through that system. Actually, it worked really successfully, which is why we then rolled it out in September for the rest of the school. In amongst the reports that you've got a termly report from our Year 5. So yeah, thank you, Michael. That's that one. So that's what our Year 5 data looked like at the end of the autumn term. And then I've also attached the statutory data. I don't know if you pull that down, because your statutory data goes on to Sims to pull that down. The interesting one is the Year 6. If you don't look too closely at the figures, because our Year 6 data last academic year was very low. I went in, as I'm sure we all do. Thankfully, 7:30 this year, not midnight. Went in, opened up that, and Michael actually came in that morning, and my face absolutely fell because I knew that we had a difficult cohort, but I was surprised when the thresholds went up. That was what tipped us under that balance. So I was quite devastated, but what I would tend to do at that point when that data came through was start crunching numbers and spend an hour or so getting all of that data so that I could then feed back to staff. Within 3 or 4 minutes, we'd run the report and had all of that, and actually picked out some real positives from that as well. So rather than me sit there in the midst of a gloom, trying to get my head around data, I was able to pull that out and go, actually, that's a real positive, that's a real positive. When the Year 6 teachers hit my office at 8:15 saying, how did it go? I could then pull myself together, have some real positives I could share with them, and then also share the headline stuff as well. And that I felt was a really valuable resource, which is there as part of the package anyway. So
Sorry, let's give that. So when you receive the data, when you receive that data,
yes,
you could drop it straight in.
Could drop it straight in when it comes down from the DFE on that morning. Yes.
So you didn't, it wasn't a defined spreadsheet.
No, absolutely. It was a CTF we just literally put straight in, ran it, and it came out.
That was the same with phonics and early years. So all the statutory early years phonics, years 1 and 2 and year 6, that's all there, that's free, and you'll see the reports are all in the same format with behaviours broken down the sides, and literally we've been able to churn that data so fast, to say Adrian has been able to churn that data so fast to actually be able to work on the data and actually work through the stuff and look at where the areas are strong and weak.
Do you do progress as well?
Yes, it does. It gives you an idea. Obviously, that's not necessarily going to be the progress measure, but that was yes. Yeah, so that was one of the things that pleased me, because I was concerned. Actually, our writing progress came out below the coasting measure, but actually our maths being at where it was, I was concerned that one was going to be significantly lower. So I was able to go with that positive of, actually, despite the cohort that we had, and we had a lot of significant needs in that cohort and a lot of imports of significant needs, and I'm sure we all have that tips the balance with your children. I was able to say, actually, look at the progress measure here. Those children that we've had have made some significant gains. So we also now have put old SATS papers onto the system, so there's a mark sheet, so that if you're doing a SATS test, you can check against those, and that breaks that down easily, and you can work out where those children, and also Puma and Pira tests. I don't know if you use those at all, those maths and reading assessments. I'm a little bit, I find their use, I worry that teachers are going to hang too much on them, because I think we'd got to a position where teachers knew their children really well, they knew where they were, and with those Puma and Pira, I've had 1 or 2 teachers say, when I ask them where their children are, how they're doing, I'm doing the test next week. But that test is still just another piece of that evidence base, and I'm trying to remind them of that. It's normally those teachers that used to hang on to the old optional SATs when we used to do those. But that's really positive that we can use that breakdown as well. So we also use the SIMS assessment to look at our behaviour strategy, our behaviour policy. So again, as I said, I didn't want to look at SIMS and change what we do. So what we've done is we record low-level behaviour issues onto SIMS. We have stars of the week every week for learning, and we also have gold. So if children behave in a certain way, which is exceptional, this really rewards those children who are the ones. I don't know if you find this, but if you have a house token system or something like that, those children that are always acting the way they need to and achieving the way they need to tend to be the ones that miss out. The ones who quite often aren't doing what they're supposed to do. When they act in the way that everyone else does all the time, they get rewarded for that. So the gold really gives children something to strive for, which is above and beyond, and quite often that's in a social environment around the school. Those things we then report to parents through the parent app, which I'll talk about in a moment. We also have, here's the GDPR thing again, our medical recording was at best, I don't quite know how, it went, everything that was recorded in our first aid area went into a book. That book may or may not have been locked away. The amount of times that I've gone up to that area in the afternoon and found that the book's on the side, so you've potentially got those GDPR issues. Now our first aider just bangs it straight into Sims. That then alerts. Yes, well that's all there on Sims, so that can go straight into Sims. She then sends an alert to the administrator, so if it's a head bump or something where we need to contact the parents goes on there, and then that will follow on as well. And all of that is then secure on the system rather than being written in a book, and which could be left or lost. And actually, if a parent phones and says, my child had this happen, we can check straight away. We haven't got to go and find the book. Yes. Yeah. So that's been another really useful, which we've just started to use. Parental engagement's pretty good at our school. We were inspected in 2016 and had 127 parental responses on that Ofsted Parent View overnight. So I hadn't got round to telling them I wasn't expecting an inspection till the next term. So they're pretty good, but what we need is them being more engaged in their children's learning. So what the parent app has done, and we ran some training for this, we ran it with a group of 12 tame parents, but you know what I mean, just to see how it was going to work, and then rolled it out. 130 parents signed up within the first 48 hours, and then, as it says there, 34 sent data collection errors or changes within that first. So they can do that at the touch of a button. They open their app, they see it's wrong, they change it, send it in. It doesn't go live until it's sent live by the office. So that goes into the office, but actually it's a really quick way. They also get on a Saturday, they get an alert telling them how their child's attendance is up to that point, up to the Friday afternoon, and when their children, that just fires through weekly. It's automatic. That goes through on a Saturday lunchtime, I think. It was going through on a Friday, which would have been ideal, but then there was a glitch in the system which meant that parents were receiving it 5 times on a Friday. So we just moved it to a Saturday, and it works equally well. Parents can actually get live updates of their child's attendance, which when I ran the first meeting, a parent was saying, but my child was at 98 something last week or yesterday, and today they're at, and I was like, look, it's not for you to do that. It just gives you that overview, but actually it helps. And we also then use that to target certificates, which we send out saying, because I've got a new governor, and he said, well, 90% sounds pretty good to me, but actually it's getting governors and parents. I actually had exactly the same conversation on the gate yesterday, because a parent had received a letter from me, and they came out quite irate because the letter was very threatening, but a child's attendance is just 90%. And so I was trying to explain that 90% may sound good, but actually the impact of that. So,
sorry, I just passed my phone now just to show you that a gold award. That's my child. I'm happy to share. That came through to me as a parent, and I had a brilliant conversation and lots of rewards for the child. So, because normally children don't normally brag about these things, but I knew about them, so I could tease it out, and that is brilliant for me as a parent. My wife is in statistics as well.
And you can. The other thing you can do, what we've chosen not to do, is put when children are in trouble. So those negative behaviours which are recorded, we just don't send those to parents, because actually we feel as a school the last thing you want if you're coming out of a meeting or you're at work or you're in the supermarket is to get a thing saying, an alert on your phone saying your child's been in trouble. We want to have those conversations. So this isn't stopping us having those conversations with parents, but actually it's a really, as a parent, it's really nice to see, oh, you've got that, and then have that conversation. And I've already mentioned school dinners. So we run our clubs, our extracurricular clubs through that as well. So if an email goes out to parents saying, these are the clubs running next term, sign up for them if you want to. They then send back through that money system an alert saying that they want their child to be attending that club. They then get put onto that list automatically, and that doesn't, if it's a nil cost, which almost all of our extracurricular clubs are, it doesn't charge them for that. It just puts them onto the list so that teachers know who they're expecting. So there are a few things that we're looking to develop further. The attendance report that you've got there is one of those, and also Sims Discover. Discover is a way you can build graphs to look at different key groups in different ways, and it puts Venn diagrams. All I really want is one of those tables, and then you can start flicking things around like spooks. But that works really effectively. It's we've not started using it in practice, but it's kind of the next step where we're looking to go, and also putting our interventions onto Sims as well. So that's it. Those are the changes we've made. I think it's impacting really positively. Staff are really on board with it, having only been doing it for half a year now. But there are some really positive things which haven't cost us much. Some of the reports that we've chosen to have done, we have paid for, but actually that flexibility is there, and the reports aren't hugely expensive, and then they're ours forever. So actually we've got a report now for some of the data that we wanted reported in a certain way, and that's been made for us. It's bespoke, and we've got it, and we can pull that down and run that report whenever we want. So that yes, yeah.
This attendance reports, Capital have seen this today, and they want to share it with all their schools. So we're going to be doing some more work in conjunction with the school. So that means everyone here can get a copy of this report for free.
How do we get that? Have you looked on our email?
We're going to get that to you.
Everything you sent to that pupil.
Sorry, say again?
You know, anything you sent out from the school,
Yes.
parent or whatever about behaviour, is it saved on that pupil's profile?
Yes. So when you open up a pupil profile, you can see everything there that's been sent through. So yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So your pupil profile on Sims just looks exactly as it is. You just click on them. You can open up any of those things. That's all recorded there. Some of it we then choose to share with parents through the parent app.
Well done.
So if I'm honest, I have to say that most of the work for this was done by one of my assistant heads, Amy Frost, who was due to be here today, but she's got another appointment came up, so I got dropped into this quite late. But she's been fantastic at doing this. We've worked together and in partnership with Scomis, which has worked very well. As I say, the thing that made the biggest difference to us was the fact that any money we were saving on not using the assessment package we have, we've kind of invested in getting reports, or part invested in getting reports ready. That costing, once we've got those reports, will diminish significantly because we've got everything we need. But if we need changes made, we can do that, and that's what we are finding we were struggling with regard to our previous supplier. Was actually sometimes you'd ask for things and you'd almost get why do you want that done? Because you need to do it this way, and actually you need to make it work for you as a school, because every school wants to see things slightly differently.
So it's maybe a combined question. Do you use software to support like school reports, as in children's reports?
We
just have a portal where you can, when you talk about program study, organised?
Yes, where I don't know if you've used School Pupil Tracker, but last year, similar to that, last year our school reports were brought down from those programmes of study, and teachers could then free write into those as well. So actually, our school reporting system it comes right out of Sims as well.
So one of the other things we did with the parent app is we wanted, instead of printing lots of things all the time, we said to parents, we'll happily print the reports, but actually if you've got the app, you'll get your report 1 week early. And that drove people and parents to go and get the app so they can be signed up then for the attendance, for the other bits and pieces, and then